Even judges don't use it all the time.
Good morning. The time is now 9:43 a.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of June 10th, 2025 is called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda in order of priority. If I could please have a motion. Move of the agenda, second of the agenda. Are there any elements to add to the agenda? Ms. Tilley.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to place two resolutions on the agenda. The first is Michigan State Board of Education Resolution, Ethnic Studies as a graduation requirement.
Okay, so we have a motion relative to ethnic studies from Ms. Tilley. Do we have a second? We have a second from Senator Bullock. Ms. Tilley, to you to describe the resolution or to read it into the record.
So this resolution is to help towards a long-term issue that we've had in education where a lot of voices, ethnicities, populations are not reflected in the curriculum. They do not see themselves, and there's an opportunity gap that can be filled by them seeing themselves. There's a lot of positives. We know that data shows that if they can see themselves in the curriculum, it helps with their GPA, it helps with their attendance, they're more engaged. And then also, other students that are not ethnic, white students, it gives them an opportunity to learn about other cultures. Um, this is a big world and a big state. So we have a lot of different populations represented. We want to make sure they're reflected in the curriculum. And this has been ongoing since the beginning of the education system, where people that look like some of us at the table have been left out. Whether it is the African American community, whether it is the Middle Eastern community. And then we went to the and forgive me if I do not enunciate this properly, but the Zibbawing, is that
Zebawing.
Zibbawing Center, and beautiful center. We learned a lot, especially during the tour, but we also were introduced to the elders there, and they spoke about how their population, the students don't see themselves in the curriculum. It's so important in public education that students see themselves. So this is to ask the legislators that um, marginalized communities will now be implemented into the curriculum.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Ms. Tilley has described the resolution. This is a discussion about the inclusion of this resolution on the agenda later on today. Any other discussion before a roll call vote?
Right.
Dr. Pugh.
I was looking for, and thank you, I asked the question for some of the resolutions that we've passed and some of the work that the department is doing. One of the resolutions that we did, I don't see it on this list, but it was a resolution for comprehensive history that, to me was in tandem with, it went along with the legislation that was put forward in the lame duck to teach one unit of study on six historically discriminated groups that I know that the department has done a lot of work around. And again, we did a resolution on comprehensive history. I remember, Ellen, you and I worked on that at length. And then we stayed, well, yeah, we were here, and there was lengthy input on those resolutions. And what I would like to know is how those tie into these discussions that we've been having for a while. So the department has, as a result of that um, resolution, we also have been teaching comprehensive history efforts, and that was like 3 years ago. And just hearing what the differences are, but some of the examples of the topics: remembering the Holocaust, civil rights, equal rights, disability rights, labor rights, indigenous history, and Asian American history rights. That there have been 41 webinars on 21 topics that have been related to those topics. And then, like I said, there is legislation that's on the books that requires 1 unit of study: 6 historically discriminated groups: African American, Indigenous, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, Latin American, Hispanic American, and Caribbean American, Jewish American, Arab American, Chaldean American, and North Africans. The bills have not gotten over the finish line. I know, Board Member Tilly, you and I were talking about, I believe it was these bills. So before we pass another resolution, I want to see how they're related to this and where we are on those bills. Um, and making sure that the language that we put forward is language that aligns with what we've said in the past, as well as what those bills are, especially as it comes to mandating and requiring potentially additional um, credits. So,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pugh. Any other discussion? Please, Ms. Tilly.
So I know that we we made some changes to social studies to make it more inclusive. My fear has been, and which the Native American community confirms, and I'm sure other communities from different conversations I've had with educators, and also, over the years, over the last almost 2 years that I've been working on this, I've done several drafts. I shared one of the drafts with the AFT. They supported it as educators as well. There are different populations and communities that feel a need, not just myself, to hear or to see these marginalized communities represented in the curriculum. And I did talk to Senator Chang about the legislation or the bill that she introduced, and she is going to reintroduce it again at the end of this month, is the plan. I don't think that I think anytime you're organizing or you're creating change, that there are multiple voices needed. There are multiple pushes needed. And I don't think it's just one thing or one way. I think this is layered. I think that we need to um, I know Judy mentioned working on possibly the merit curriculum. And I think that's another route. I think there is not just one answer to this. This is a huge issue that has gone on for generations, not just in this state, but in this nation. And we need to step up, stand on this, and take a leadership position on this to make sure that we get it done and that the legislators hear our voices and know that we're serious about this. And it's going to be up to the legislators because this is, even if they did adopt ethnic studies, this is still open enough where they are going to shape the language and the law. So,
Thank you, Ms. Tilly. Senator Bullock.
I think I got a two-part question. The first one is, were we just voting to put it on the agenda?
It is a vote for the agenda. It is a vote for the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. You got a second question?
Well, it was the contingent on that.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. That's a subtle parliamentarian question. Thank you so much. Any other board members care to share? This is a discussion about putting the item on the agenda. Dr. Pugh, do you have another?
I do, unless someone else has something to say.
Okay,
And,
does
and,
not appear so.
and this, yes, it may sound a little bit about the, discussing the resolution itself, but I have to be very clear as to why I will vote to not put this on the agenda at this time. But the resolution that we passed in January of 2022, the therefore be it resolved, was that the State Board of Education supports Michigan public school districts with policy guidance and standards that promote diversity, racial equity, and inclusion, and supports the comprehensive teaching of U.S. history, including about race and racism and consequences thereof, so that discussions about institutional racism or current and past discriminatory acts are not viewed as unpatriotic. And then it goes on to say that the board is further resolved that we oppose bills that were being put forward at that time. So I'm thinking that we probably could take a look at this and the ethnic studies bill, and if Senator Chang, which I definitely would hope she would, is putting forward that bill package again, that we put within the language of the resolution something that supports those bills. So that is clear, that we, along with the department, will continue to advocate for those bills.
I just shared the resolution that you are discussing.
Oh,
So I had it printed so you guys can see it.
Thank you.
There any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please.
It's not exactly the same, although it is in tandem. I do feel this has been over 3 years ago. I don't see the harm in doing an additional push and saying, and reaffirming that we want this to be a part of the curriculum.
I agree.
The students are waiting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right,
Another bite of the apple?
please, Senator.
Since this may be my deciding thought, in such, who would be responsible for creating these multiple ethnic curriculums? And how are we gonna set the standard and the guidelines for that?
So we would have to make those decisions, and the legislature would have to make those decisions. And I did ask for funding, and I did ask for that the board will work with the Michigan Department of Education, educators, students, families, and community stakeholders to develop and implement high-quality ethnic studies curricula aligned with Michigan's rigorous learning standards and best practices for culturally responsive instruction, offer professional development, instructions, materials, and technical assistance to ensure that educators are prepared to teach ethnic studies effectively and inclusively.
So who ultimately is responsible is the question. Is it the Board of Education, or is it the legislature, or is it an outside entity? Who ultimately is going to come up with the curriculum?
We set the policies and standards that would not change, and the locals would decide on the curriculum based on the policies and standards, and they would receive training.
So that curriculum could look different from
As
Sault
does
Ste.
literacy.
Marie and
Yes.
so we gotta create. It probably needs to be uniform, but okay.
All right,
It's
thank you,
still
Senator.
local control. I mean, I would not be opposed to that, but I do know that it's still local control. This isn't to take away local control. This is to say that this needs to be a part of the curriculum, which is our jobs to, designate, to set policies and standards, what needs to go inside of the curriculum.
Thank you, Senator. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, it's a roll call vote on Ms. Tilley's motion to include the resolution on the agenda.
Bullock,
It's an apprehensive no.
Lipton. No. McMillan,
No.
Pritchett,
No.
Pugh,
No.
Robinson,
No.
Snyder.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Thank you, Board. Ms. Tilley, you have a second motion on Job Corps.
Yes.
Move it, we'll get a second, and then to you to discussion. So we have I'm sorry.
A motion to move the resolution standing with Job Corps, a commitment to Michigan's youth.
We have a motion from Ms. Tilley. We have a co-second by Dr. Pritchett and Senator Bullock. And back to Ms. Tilley for a description.
Thank you. Whereas Job Corps, is it okay to read it?
Please.
Whereas Job Corps, established in 1964, has been a cornerstone in providing free education and vocational training to young Americans aged 16 to 24, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds, and whereas the program has successfully served over 3 million individuals nationwide, offering comprehensive services including academic education, vocational skills training, counseling, and residential support. And whereas Michigan is home to 3 Job Corps Center, the Detroit Job Corps Center located in Detroit, the Gerald R. Ford Jobs Corps Center in Grand Rapids / Kent County, and the Flint Genesee Job Corps Center in Flint. These centers have been instrumental in providing vocational training and educational opportunities to Michigan's youth, contributing to workforce development and economic growth within the state. Whereas the Flint Genesee Job Corps Center is preparing to shut down after a decision by the U.S. Department of Labor to pause operations at 5 centers nationwide, with the closure already underway affecting 147 students and dozens of employees. Whereas the Detroit Job Corps Center serves approximately 300 students on its 12-acre urban campus, offering training programs in fields such as information technology, and is located near downtown Detroit, has unexpectedly shut down, leaving hundreds of young people without housing and career training opportunities. Whereas the Gerald R. Ford Job Corps Center in Grand Rapids, situated at 110 Hall Street Southeast, is set to halt operations by June 30th, 2025, impacting its 212 enrolled students. Whereas in Michigan, Job Corps centers have played a pivotal role in equipping our youth with the necessary skills to thrive in various industries, thereby contributing to the state's economic growth and social stability. And whereas recent federal budget constraints have led to the temporary suspension of operations at certain Job Corps centers, affecting both staff and students. And whereas such closures have a profound impact on the communities they serve, leading to job losses and depriving at-risk youth of GED or high school diploma attainment, as well as critical educational and vocational opportunities such as carpentry, health occupation, security, and culinary arts. And whereas the Department of Labor has acknowledged the challenges faced by the Job Corps program due to rising operational costs and has called upon future administrations and Congress to ensure its sustainability. And whereas the potential reduction or cessation of Job Corps services threatens to exacerbate issues such as youth unemployment, homelessness, and involvement in the criminal justice system, and whereas investments in programs like Job Corps have been shown to yield positive outcomes, including increased educational attainment, reduced criminal activity, and higher earnings among participants. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan State Board of Education stands in unwavering support of the Job Corps program and recognizes its invaluable contribution to the development and empowerment of Michigan's youth. Be it further resolved that the board urges the U.S. Department of Labor, Congress, and the incoming administration to prioritize the funding and sustainability of Job Corps centers, ensuring that they continue to serve as a beacon of hope and opportunity for young individuals across the nation. Be it therefore resolved that the board commits to collaborating with state and federal partners to advocate for policies and resources that bolster the mission of Job Corps, thereby fostering a brighter future for Michigan's youth and communities. And I do want to add that I know that there's a battle right now ensuing in the courts to preserve the Job Corps, but I still feel there is value in this resolution because we don't know where things will go. So I think it's important that we take a stand and stand with those youth that some of them have had to go to shelters because of this. So many youth have been displaced across the U.S.
So to Ms. Tilley's point, a federal court has enjoined the administration from shutting down Job Corps at this point. Thank you, Ms. Tilley. We've got a motion, we have a second, we've had reading into the record. Any other discussion about placing this agenda item on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please. Ms. Evans.
Bullock,
Yay.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
No.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
No.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good, thank you, Board. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you very much, Dr. Pritchett. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Is there any discussion before we vote on the agenda as amended? Hearing and seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
No.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
No.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. At this time, Ms. Liz Evans, State Board Executive, will introduce members of the State Board of Education.
Good morning. You have just been listening to Dr. Michael Rice, Chairperson of the State Board and State Superintendent. To his left around the table is Board President Dr. Pamela Pugh from Saginaw, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Ellen Cogan-Lipton from Huntington Woods, NASB Delegate Dr. Mitchell Robinson from Okemos, Ms. Nikki Snyder, and Ms. Kelly Kuzmano, the 24-25 Michigan Teacher of the Year. Now seated to my right is Mr. Tom McMillan from Oakland Township, Board Treasurer Mr. Marshall Bullock from Detroit, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Tiffany Tilley from West Bloomfield, and Board Secretary Dr. Judith Pritchett from Washington Township. Lastly, seating behind Dr. Pugh is Ms. Emma Young, the Governor's K-12 Policy Advisor ex officio.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. The public may register to provide public comment during the public participation portion of the meeting at approximately 1 p.m. Those wishing to make public comment must register before 1 p.m. To provide public comment by telephone, please complete the registration form on the MDE webpage, www.michigan.gov/MDE. To provide public comment in person, please complete a green public comment form when you arrive at the meeting location. These instructions are listed on the MDE webpage. The first item on today's agenda is a presentation by the 2024-2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year. During today's presentation, we will hear from Ms. Kuzmano in her valedictory presentation as this year's Michigan Teacher of the Year. We welcome Ms. Kuzmano, Michigan Teacher of the Year, English Language Arts teacher at Rochester High School in Rochester Community Schools. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required, but Board, she is a teacher. You could get a pop quiz. Ms. Kuzmano.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here today. So good morning, Dr. Rice, members of the State Board of Education, Michigan Department of Education, and members of the public. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today in my final address as the 2024-2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year. This year has been one of the most memorable and impactful ones of my life. I've spent the last month visiting more schools and learning spaces all over the state. So we'll start with that. In the pictures before you, on the left, I was able to visit Harrison Park in Grand Rapids Public Schools, experience Take Your Child to Work Day. I mean, can you see the joy on the bottom left? That is a science experiment one of our science teachers was doing with all staff members' children, which was pretty phenomenal. I think they made slime. I'm almost positive. And I had a series of visits with student council alumni to talk to my students about what leadership looks like in present careers. We had everyone from a dairy researcher to an occupational therapist to a palliative care hospice nurse and so on. It was really, really cool. Back in August, I appeared before you as a jet-lagged, I had just come off a plane from Ireland the day of my first meeting. I hope I hit it well. A lot of makeup. But hopeful educator, and today I remain hopeful, but now with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep respect for the knowledge, dedication, and resilience of Michigan's educators and students. Over the course of the year, I've had the privilege of visiting and learning from dozens of schools and educators across our state. As my colleague and fellow Kentucky Teacher of the Year, Jennifer Montgomery, said, the most powerful professional learning doesn't come from a new strategy or a new program, it comes from listening. Since the beginning of my tenure, I've made it my mission to listen to educators, to students, to communities, and to share their stories. I've worked to help the public better understand how schools are designed, funded, and supported through Michigan's policy landscape. I believe that when we see the whole system clearly, we are better positioned to uplift it. In addition to my advocacy, I've spent time reviewing the data and metrics frequently referenced at this board table and in the media. While important, those numbers often paint an incomplete picture of what is truly happening in our schools. To gain that understanding, you have to go into buildings. You have to listen to the educators and the students. For example, when I traveled to the Upper Peninsula, teachers shared their feelings of isolation and declining population, yet they still created extraordinary learning experiences like leadership conferences and tribal powwows. In Eaton Rapids, I learned about a hunting and fishing elective, as well as their declining enrollment and teaching vacancies. In Grand Rapids, I heard concerns about chronic absenteeism, but also saw their occupational therapy room and met students fundraising for their 8th grade class trip. These conversations have shown me both the tremendous breadth and the significant challenges that define our education system. To frame my reflections today, I chose the poem, because, high school English teacher, can't let it go. I chose the poem To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. She is a Detroit-born poet who writes from a working-class perspective about social and environmental issues. I discussed this poem with an AP literature class at Rochester High School, and inspired by those conversations, I asked one of my students, Senior Jazz Orser, to create a storyboard for each stanza of the poem. So you are about to see 4 different storyboards that were created by a very talented senior who is continuing her education at the College for Creative Studies. I believe that the voices and experiences of both Michigan teachers and students can be of use to all of us as we dream of how learning and schools can look. So stanza 1, this is titled Into the Shallows. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. In every school I visited, I saw teachers diving into their work head first, undaunted, committed, and passionate. Despite growing student needs and the noise of national discourse, Michigan teachers show up every day with energy and focus. Everywhere, from the far reaches of the UP to the Ohio-Michigan border in Buchanan, Michigan teachers embody the sure strokes Piercy describes. They don't want to be sidelined in policy conversations. They want to be heard, valued, and trusted to co-create the future of education. Stanza 2. moving forward. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. The patience and persistence of Michigan educators cannot be overstated. During the pandemic, they were hailed as essential, only to later be criticized for not being rigorous enough. Each year, they've been told to change how they teach, what they teach, and how they engage with student needs. Each year, they're asked to adapt to new policies, curriculum, funding, assessments, and to greet a new group of children with fresh energy. And they do it each and every year. They do their job despite the fact that many times they feel like they are the singular ox carrying the heavy load. But the weight they carry doesn't have to fall solely on them. This system can and must do more to support them. We must stop condemning schools that struggle and start investing in them. Michigan teachers are not asking for praise, they are asking for partnership. Stanza 3, moving forward, or a common rhythm. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. This stanza reminds me of the true change makers in education. Early on this year, I visited schools where agricultural programs are collaborating with cafeterias to put Michigan crops on students' plates. I listened to librarians sharing the purpose and communities of the spaces they oversee, and visited the Michigan School for the Deaf, where staff advocate fiercely for their community. These educators are not parlor generals or field deserters. They are submerged in the task of improving student outcomes, but they need help. We must work towards a political and cultural reality where education is not a partisan battleground, but a shared commitment. Public schools are one of the last places in our society where every child, regardless of background, can receive a quality education. Let's fund them fairly, support them equitably, and treat them as the sacred spaces they are. This board has real power to make that happen through policy that supports teacher retention, prioritizes students, and listens closely to those on the front lines. And the last stanza is healing. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Creek amphoras for wine or oil, hoppy vases that held corn, are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. Because we've all attended school, many believe they understand what it's like to be a teacher or student in 2025. They assume the work is simple, common as mud, but we know better. Educators and students are constantly being asked to adapt, to do more with less, to carry the emotional and academic load of a society in flux. And yet, when we work together, education can take on a shape that satisfies. If we encourage and retain great teachers, if we equip school leaders with the systems and supports they need, if we invest equitably across all communities, our schools can thrive. But if we allow cynicism and defeatism to rule the narrative, we'll remain stuck in a cycle of inaction. I believe in the work that is real. My time as Michigan Teacher of the Year has deepened my conviction that this work is not only worth doing, it's worth doing well. Thank you, most of all, to my family who stood by and supported me through every month, the staff and administration at Rochester Community Schools, the Office of Educator Excellence, my mentors, Leah Porter and Owen Bondano, the 9 other Regional Teachers of the Year, and each of you on this board for allowing me to be a part of the conversation. I will carry this experience with me always, and I will never stop believing in the incredible potential of our students, our teachers, and our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzmano. The next item on the agenda is a resolution honoring the 2024-2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year. We welcome our presenters, Dr. Michelle Harmala, Deputy Superintendent in the Division of Educator Excellence, Career and Technical Education, Special Education, and Administrative Law, Ms. Jennifer Robel, Manager in the Office of Educator Excellence, and unsurprisingly, Ms. Kelly Kuzmano, the 2024-2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year. After their presentation, the board would be asked to approve a resolution. Dr. Harmala, Ms. Robel, Ms. Kelly Brozanski, Director of the Office of Educator Excellence, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and that poem was spectacular along with all your narration sharing, so thank you. Dr. Rice, you have the resolution, so we're ready for you.
All right, very good. So, like to read it?
I would be honored to. Thank you. Whereas Ms. Kelly Kuzmano received a Bachelor of Arts in English and a Master of Arts in Curriculum and Instruction, both from Michigan State University. Whereas Ms. Kuzmano has 20 years of teaching experience and expertise, the last 17 of which have been as an English language arts teacher at Rochester High School and in Rochester Community Schools. Whereas the State Board of Education and the Michigan Department of Education honored Kelly Kuzmano as the 2024-2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year, whereas Ms. Kuzmano is known for her ability to motivate and inspire her students as well as other educators to embrace challenges and grasp difficult concepts through her unique and imaginative presentations and lessons, whereas Ms. Kuzmano has recognized the importance of student and educator engagement throughout her tenure as a Michigan Teacher of the Year and has never lost her interest, her enthusiasm, or her commitment to the ideals of education. Whereas the State Board of Education has continually supported teachers with several quality initiatives, including the Michigan Teacher of the Year program and the Milken National Educator Award. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the State Board of Education expresses its deepest appreciation and gratitude to Kelly Kuzmano and the tens of thousands of educators in the great state of Michigan for their outstanding work. Be it further resolved that the State Board of Education supports all efforts, training, and resources available to our state's educators so that our teachers may continue to educate and positively influence the children of today as they become the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
So I'm going to take that as a motion. Do we have a second? Second from Dr. Robinson. It's been read into the record. Is there any discussion associated therewith? Going to make sure that there are no hanging chads here. Ms. Tilley.
Just want to say thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much. You've done an amazing job, and thank you for your words of wisdom that you just shared with us in your presentation.
Thank you.
This is where we're
What's that?
giving a few words of.
It's a good place.
Since the first day we actually came to the school, it's been a while since I seen the entire school enthusiastic about one particular teacher. The entire school was ready and applauding and cheering about your announcement. And since you've been here, you have been a joy to listen to and watch you with your passion and your dedication. And as you gave your poem, each of the images dropped into my head. So when I saw the water buffalo, I might be dating myself, but I immediately went to the Flintstones and said, "You truly are the grand poobah." Leading the way for our young people. So
Thank you.
all right.
Dr. Rice, can I also add, every board member, there's some gifts from Rochester. So the Rochester community wanted to also say thank you for giving Rochester a little piece of the spotlight.
Oh, yeah.
That, Ms. Kuzmano. We appreciate you as well. We've appreciated your voice, your presence at the table, and your advocacy on behalf of the profession, not simply the teaching profession, but more broadly, public education, because there are those that don't believe in public education. There are others that recognize it for what it is, the difference between some kids making it and other kids not being able to make it at all. So we appreciate it. We appreciate you. And now let's see if there are any hanging chads. If we could have please.
Can I just share one thing? Kelly normally stays through the end of the meeting. today she has an 8th grader to see off to promotion, so she's going to leave us early today, and we wanted everybody to understand her need to be elsewhere. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Please.
I just want to add to what board members Tilly and Bullock said, and Dr. Rice, just thank you for all that you do. Your presentations have centered us. You show that you really care about what you do, and more importantly, our children, and the time that you put in preparation, putting those presentations together showed, and have left an impression on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Evans, a roll call vote, please.
Bullock,
Absolutely.
Lipton, McMillan,
Pass.
Pritchett,
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder, and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Rows between two thorns. Rows between two thorns. Come on.
Here, let me get in the middle.
Oh, thank you. She had a boat race this morning, and a promotion tonight.
Board, the next item on today's agenda is a presentation by Hazard Young Atia and Associates, the search firm that is assisting State Board of Education in its search for the next superintendent of public instruction. Our presenters will share a timeline and discuss high points of the next few months. They are in person, Dr. Connie Collins and Dr. Mike Ritchie, and virtually, Dr. Max McGee, HYA President. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. There will be no PowerPoint presentation, but our presenters look forward to engaging you in the search for the successor state superintendent. Our presenters, welcome in person, and Dr. McGee, welcome virtually.
Good morning. Thank you, one and all, and we will be respectful of your time. We just wanted to give a very quick introductions of our team members, and we appreciated the introductions Ms. Evans gave at the beginning of the meeting of you all. I'm the president of HYA and have been everything from a substitute teacher to state superintendent of schools in Illinois. And but my primary job and my only job now is to serve you and to help you find the best superintendent to take on the reins of leadership and work with you and for you. Along with me today and there in person, Mike Ritchie and Connie Collins. So would you all please introduce yourselves?
Good morning. I'm Connie Collins, and indeed a pleasure to be here, especially after the Teacher of the Year. I had a chance to present because one of the schools she says she visited was Harrison Park in Grand Rapids, which is one of the schools that I supervised when I was a member and area superintendent with the Grand Rapids Public Schools. So have been with HYA since 2017, was a superintendent for 16 years in the state of Illinois, and prior to that was in Michigan for 13 years as a speech pathologist, special ed teacher, special ed director, and area superintendent when I left and went to Illinois. So it's indeed a pleasure to be here, and we look forward to sharing.
Thank you. My name is Mike Ritchie, and first of all, how do we follow what we just heard? That was amazing. So congratulations to everyone for that great celebration. Again, my name is Mike Ritchie. I have worked for HYA for the past 7 years. I'm one of the 2 vice presidents, and my background is 26 years as a superintendent, all in Wisconsin. Yes, I'm a Packer fan. I apologize to this group, but I live in central Wisconsin, and prior to me being a superintendent, I was an elementary principal, and I started my career way back when teaching 5th grade. And I keep saying 5th grade is the greatest grade there is to teach. So that is my background.
Great. Thank you, one and all. So we thought we would start by just presenting the timeline. I'm going to do a screen share here. You may have that in front of you. And here we go. And I believe you can all see that now. Is that correct? Dr. Rice?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to present this by phases and take a brief pause after every phase for see if there's any questions. So here we are, June 10th, inspired by the Teacher of the Year and reminding us why we all went into education. Some of us quite a long time ago, I started as a teacher in 1972 and haven't lost that passion and commitment and appreciated being re-inspired. So here we are at the planning meeting. Over the next few days, we're going to ask you to sign up for a time slot for an individual interview. Tomorrow morning, you will receive email that has a link to it where you can sign up for one 1 hour time slot any day between the 12th and the 18th, except for, of course, Saturday and Sunday. And along with that, you will have the questions ahead of time so you can make the best use of your time. We will use this information as part of our leadership profile report to recruit teachers and develop posting and advertising verbiage. So these are critical meetings, and we hope you can find time over the next few days to set aside 45 to 60 minutes. The reason we want to get these interviews done so expeditiously is so that we can send to Dr. Pugh, who then would relate to you, our job posting and application requirements based on what we learn from you during those interviews. It is our goal to get the word on the street on June 25th, to launch a search with our initial posting on our website, advertising. Dr. Ritchie's wife was I think a graphic artist and a marketing professional by trade. She produces some wonderful materials for us and for you to distribute, and we'll talk more about how that gets distributed in a moment. As you'll hear in a few moments, between June 23rd and July 3rd, these are critical areas for stakeholder engagement. We have allocated in our proposal 40 separate sessions for individual interviews, focus groups, or forums, and we'll dive into those in a few moments. The online survey is customized. We will prepare some stock questions and then share those with Dr. Pugh and Dr. Rice, and work on getting that posted on the website. For stakeholder engagement, again, we'll talk in a few moments about who to include in those interviews, focus groups, and forums. All this information from the engage phase gets wrapped into the leadership profile report. So we take the quantitative data from the survey, and the qualitative data from the interviews. Of course, we have open-ended questions on the survey, so there's some additional qualitative data. We put this together into a leadership profile report, which is public information. This leadership profile report we use when we're recruiting candidates from across the country. We use it as a basis for interview questions that we recommend to you. And we use it as a basis for some of our own screening interview questions. So as we move down the calendar, we'll talk a little more about interview questions, scenarios, presentations, et cetera. So this engagement phase is critically important to hear from key stakeholders, key individuals, key groups, and give the opportunity for folks to be heard. And so that when we put together this leadership profile report, is really a broad and deep look at the qualifications, characteristics, priorities for the next superintendent. That's the engage phase. Are there any quick questions? And then we'll move through the, Dr. Rice, if that's okay, quick questions, and we'll move through the recruitment and selection phases.
Board members, questions? Ms. Snyder.
Have we already determined the 40, I shouldn't say 40s, the number doesn't apply, sorry, the stakeholders that we're engaging with the 23rd through the 3rd?
It's next on the agenda.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none. Back to you, Dr. McGee.
Great. Oh, thank you. Now we're on to June 11th through July 20th, and we call this our aggressive recruiting phase. So we don't sit back and wait for applications to come in. We work hard to recruit candidates from all over the country. HYA, although you are working with the three of us, you're also working with 132 other independent consultants from across the country who receive the materials, who we work with to find, okay, who is qualified for this job? Who has their fire in the belly to succeed at this job? Who should we interview? Also, during that engagement phase, when we meet with you all, we will ask you if there's candidates we should pursue and recruit, and we will follow up with each of them. We have placed, I know Connie worked with placing the AASA, that's the American Association of School Administrators. It has some 13,000 superintendent members from across the country. Connie co-led that search for their executive director. We also have executive board members on the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, and we have associates who are on the board of the National Association of Black School Educators. So we're going to work very hard at recruiting candidates from across the country. Our screening and vetting is intense. We will, of course, review their application documents, but far more than that, we ask them for references. We don't really attend to letters of reference because they're all just glowing, and half of them are written by AI these days anyway. So we get references we can call, and believe me, with 135, that includes we three associates across the country, we know people who know everyone, and that's really not hyperbole. We always find a way to do reference checks for folks that even where they haven't listed their references. So we do that. With the assistance of our back office, we do intense online screening, and not just news items or what they have on their LinkedIn, but we really go into depth on social media presence, social media posts. We look at images. We have many stories we can share. We won't do that at this meeting about things that we have found. If we find anything that would give us pause, much less give you all pause in interviewing a candidate, we require a written response to that. So it's very interesting when we have people respond to something a post that was not terribly appropriate in writing. And so we just want to make sure that we do this thorough vetting. We do verify their past employment and the degrees to the extent that publicly available information, that there is that information available to the public and to us. So with that, we will be at your August 12th board meeting. We will present a slate of what we call the tier 1 applicants who we think are the best fit based on what we learned from the leadership profile in our interviews with you. That being said, you have access to a board portal. Dr. Ritchie can talk about this in depth a little bit later. You'll have the opportunity to see every applicant. And so when we present our slate of candidates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ideally 5, perhaps more, perhaps less, depending on the fit, board members will have the opportunity to say, well, what about candidates 7 and 8? Or 9 and 10, or what did you really find so special about the candidate 2 you're presenting? So that meeting will be a important meeting, because at that meeting you will determine who you will bring in for your first round of interviews. So this where you decide where your semifinal slate is. So that's really our recruit phase, and then we'll go into the select phase in a moment. Any questions on that recruiting? Dr. Rice, to you.
I don't have any questions, and board members don't have any questions. You are mellifluous, Dr. McGee. Keep rolling.
Okay. All right, on a roll. So now we're beginning with August 13th to 15th. During that time frame, we provide you with sample interview questions and scenarios that we call look-fors. based on, again, the leadership profile report and all that we learned, what we think should be included in a quality answer to any question scenarios. We also provide you with a rubric for rating both the interviews and all of the application materials. We do run, during that time, a quick reminders for you regarding what you can and cannot ask in an interview situation. I'm sure you are well versed in that, but I think that's important for us all to cover those matters. We have set aside August 18th and 19th, excuse me, and perhaps August 20th for the first round of interviews. These interviews usually last between 60 and 120 minutes. And so it really depends how many semifinalists you have, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. We prefer that it be we prefer 5, frankly, so you could interview 3 in 1 day, 2 the following day, and then have ample time for deliberation to winnow that list of semifinalists down to a group of, ideally 2 or 3 finalists. That being said, we have had boards interview as many as 9 semifinalists over a period of 3 or 4 days, and we have had boards have a list of semifinalists as small as 4, and actually try to work it into 1 day. So, but I think it's important if we could, and board members, if you could possibly set aside those days. If those days aren't convenient, it really has to be sometime that week in order to stick with our ideal goal of having a September 5th selection. We set aside August 25th and 26th for interviewing the finalists, in which you will select your final preferred candidate. We'll talk a lot more about that process as we get closer to August 25th and 26th. But again, we provide you with plenty of background ideas and information. The reason we want to get the finalist interviews done and the initial lone finalists selected by August 26th is that so there is ample time to negotiate an employment contract. Also, HYA does not have the capacity to do a background into, we don't do credit reports, let me just put it that way. And we don't have access to court records that are not publicly available. And we do not do line-by-line transcripts. We will do degree verification, but we don't do line-by-line transcript or grade verification. There is a third party that we contract with, Baker Eubanks, that does that. However, many boards do rely on their own HR department to do that kind of screening. If you ask us to broker it, that is an extra charge, and that was not included in the proposal. The formal appointment then would be at your board meeting of September 9th and with an October 3rd start date. So those are the 3 phases. That's the timeline, and we'll see if there's any questions regarding any of this information.
Just one quick correction. The actual start date has been modified or changed to October 4th.
Ah, okay.
At midnight. At midnight.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Rice wants 1 more day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. McGee. Board members, questions about calendar? Questions about calendar? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I think we're pivoting to the portion of the process to which Ms. Snyder referred.
Correct. So as
Great.
Mac,
Go ahead, Michael.
as Max mentioned in his presentation, we have allowed for 40 different interviews or focus groups. And the givens are the board members, the current state superintendent, the direct reports, the staff. And so when you take those out of the equation, we're left with about 26, 27, 28, somewhere in there, focus groups. And then we thought today we would spend just a little bit of time kind of brainstorming and having you give us some ideas of the different groups that we should contact and set up these focus groups with.
So board, this is a brainstorming of the area to which Ms. Snyder referred. Dr. McGee mentioned one-on-one interviews with each of you. Those are 8 of the 40. But these are organizations, these are individuals, associations with which you would like HYA to meet to create a leadership profile. And Dr. Ritchie and Dr. Collins, I think, are going to largely moderate this here with some Jiminy Cricket on our shoulders from Dr. McGee virtually. Okay, so board members, you're brainstorming, you're not debating the value of one another's ideas, just making a list. Mr. McMillan.
I would suggest and urge you to speak to folks that are familiar and right there in the grassroots and on the ground with special ed problems and concerns throughout the state. I personally would recommend Marcy Lipset, Monica Utuma, those that actually are strong advocates and are doing the battles for the families in the courts and really defending the students and the families. And then also in the foster care students, there's a real problem with at least transcripts being provided, but there's probably other issues. Park West Foundation is very admirable, and I think they would provide a lot of good insights to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Ms. Snyder?
I would second that, but if you could give us even just, like 72 hours to get a list of those names and groups together that have consistently reached out to our board over the last few years, especially, that would be great.
Absolutely, and you can email us, if you have some other thoughts after today, we'd be happy to add those to the list.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Other board members, development of a list.
I would, I'm just going to go down through the alphabet soups here, probably, as they are sometimes referred to: MASA, MAISA. Middle Cities has changed their name. I apologize. I don't know what their new acronym is, but I'm sure.
MASO.
Thank you. Elementary and secondary principals each have their own professional association. SEAC, who's seated here at our table today. Universities who work closely with the department, because several universities in the state have teacher education programs, and they work closely with the department related to teacher shortage, teacher standards, et cetera. The Autism Alliance, Michigan League of Public Policy, and that may be all I had thought of at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchett. Ms. Tilley.
Off the top of my head, the Mott Foundation, 482 Forward, the Skillman Foundation, and the Detroit Parent Network.
Tilley. Other board members, first bite of the apple. First bite of the apple. Ms. Lipton?
In terms of an organization that has done really good work in terms of really honing in on an issue in Michigan in terms of equitable funding is the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. And as a coalition, they are a coming together of other organizations, but I think they do really good work in terms of sort of occupying that space, which is a little bit disaggregated in the state, and so having that voice, I think, is important.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lipton. Other board members? Dr. Robinson?
She just stole my thunder.
Good.
This includes groups as well as if there are individuals who are in positions that you feel that we need to have a conversation with. We'd want those names also.
Okay, very good. Dr. Pugh?
Many of those that I would have called off, you all have gotten already. I would add, I think, to Detroit Parent Network and Autism Alliance, maybe like 313 Reads or organizations that are working on literacy in particular, PTA, um, student advisory. I'm thinking of students, and I'm thinking maybe the MDE student advisory, some of the members. Um, we, in addition to the philanthropic community, maybe legislators, and figuring out how we, maybe some of the education committee chairs. In addition to MEJC, maybe groups like Black Male Educator Alliance, but some of those groups who are focused on educators. I would be interested to hear from Dr. Robinson if there are any people within the arts education that we might want to add, or educators, or those who promote STEAM or STREAM. We've probably said MEA and AFT. Did we say them already? That's all I would add so far. Of course, we will have, in addition to legislator, the governor's office. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Dr. Pritchett?
The Formal Teachers of the Year group.
Oh, yes,
I don't know if they have
absolutely.
a acronym, but that group.
Regional Teachers of the Year.
Our toys and toys.
These are toys.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pritchett. Anyone else, first bite of the apple?
Take my second one.
Please, Senator.
I couldn't tell, I think she said it, but I was gonna say like Terrence Martin, Federation of Teachers.
Yeah.
And then Ms. Tilly gave most of the groups that were swirling in my head, like Skillman. I also was gonna say the legislators, Pohanky, who's the chair in the Senate, I believe, for education. But we can look the committee members up and you can,
Yes,
so you have a bipartisan viewpoint.
yes.
Definitely.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Snyder?
You haven't had your first bite of the apple?
Well, because I was called out by Dr. Pugh, I'm just going to mention the
Called
Michigan.
out by Dr. Pugh and called on by Dr. Rice. You've had the opportunity for your first bite. Whether you've bitten is
I
a different
did, and
story.
I have a biting problem. So the Michigan Art Education Association and the Michigan Music Educators Association.
Always dancing to the beat of a different drummer. Thank you. Ms. Snyder, to you.
So just a few, actually, that if we could just write down some topics, again, I need time to get back to you. In the area of safety, I definitely think it needs to not be missed that we sit down with the 4 parents that lost their children in the Oxford shooting. They came before our board during last year's board retreat and gave an extensive report on their post-shooting investigation, which they worked hand in hand with school safety specialists on how emergency operations plans in Michigan are not functional. So the next state superintendent really should be prepared for some of the changes that they've suggested endlessly to our legislature, and how they might be willing to lead them. I can get the names of the parents that wish to sit down with you guys. Literacy, I think that you might even need to go outside of Michigan to seek the curriculum changes that have been made nationwide in states that are making major strides in literacy. Massachusetts might be one of those states where a stakeholder group that could help guide us as we move forward in the next decade. CTE, ABC is an organization that I think would be worth sitting down with to connect with members of the business community that can help us build out our infrastructure within CTE in the coming decade. So I would say literacy, safety, special education, CTE, there are numerous groups within those topics that I think are very worthy of sitting down with and asking them, what do they think our next state superintendent needs to behold to lead those changes? So I'll spend some time
Sure.
and get back to you.
And just to let you know, I led the Oxford search a year ago.
Okay.
Very familiar with the parents, be happy to reach out to them again. I have all their names. I read the full report, and did some very difficult focus groups in Oxford last year.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Other board members, Dr. Pugh?
Partnership districts. We can think through what that composition looks like, and hopefully our rural districts. Then also, in addition to what Board Member Snyder said, probably parents of gun violence in general, community, and Oxford and school gun violence. There's one more, and I can't think of it, but that's it for now. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Tilley?
The School of the Deaf, and the Native American community.
Okay, thank you very much. Other reflections? Mr. McMillan?
Yeah, I would just say there's at least one parent group that's been fighting for transparency and reasonableness in classrooms. So like Moms for Liberty, there's some chapters here, and I think that would be those are good, solid parents who are concerned about what's going on and certainly would like a superintendent that cares for their views.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Other board members, reflections? Other ideas? Ms. Lipton?
Less of an idea and more of just sort of an overall philosophy. I mean, I'm sure that all of you understand that Michigan has a very rich fabric of organizations that have an interest in education, what have you. And because of that, there's a lot of players. But I do think that it's important to sort of set some ground rules in terms of organizations so that we are having a very, very transparent and really solid process. And so I would just urge you, or perhaps try to understand better, to eliminate any potential conflicts of interest, so that if there's an organization that is intending to have someone apply for the position of state superintendent, I think it's only fair that they sort of understand that if they want to be part of the conversation, then, disclosing whether someone from their organization is going to be applying, I think that would potentially, create a conflict of interest if they are sitting and sort of having input, and then we were to later find out, hypothetically, that they were also putting forth someone. I think that perhaps there's some way, and I don't know if you all have dealt with this before, or have some sort of a confirmation that if you are going to be part of this process, then you confirm that someone from your organization that's actually sitting down with you, if it's in a group setting, will not be then applying for the position. Can you sort of maybe walk me through?
Those are conversations that we're willing to have and that we have had. If someone is interested in running for the position, then we ask that they not be a part of the group if they're going to be an applicant for the position of state superintendent. So we try, it may be that even if someone who, let's say, is a president of the organization is going to, we ask that they have somebody else. If there's a single person representing the organization, that someone else be a part of this group that is sharing information and not the person who is seeking the position.
So you have that process in place already.
Yes,
And
yes,
that-
we do, yes.
And if there is potentially an organization that doesn't necessarily follow that, you have sort of a way of sort of flagging that as a disqualifying factor or something like that?
I think Max
Max
wants
wants
to
to
say
say
something.
Yeah, can I respond? Yeah, that, that would be up to you, if you want to disqualify them. We invite the focus groups, the meetings will primarily be by Zoom. You know, we'll have some of staff, on the ground there in Lansing. But if someone attends a meeting then decides, that is, we flag that for you, and you make that determination. And we make it very clear in the template we send to every group for the invitation that, as Dr. Collins said, any individual applying for the job should not attend this focus group. Now, of course, sometimes maybe somebody just has they attended, they get all excited, they want to apply. We'll just flag that for you. But I don't think it's up to our experience, our practices. It's not up to us to automatically disqualify someone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Dr. McGee, Dr. Pritchett, to you.
Thank you. A couple of things. One is I see on the calendar, there's also an online survey.
Yep.
So obviously that's open to once.
Next on the agenda.
Okay, all right. Then I will go back to, just to clarify in my head, we talked about, obviously, each one of us is one of those quote-unquote 40. MDE staff, are they also part of those small groups, focus groups?
Yeah, I'll respond to that. I'm actually coming up on the 17th to meet with the leadership team, the MDE leadership team. And if Dr. Rice wishes, of course, we could, and Dr. Pugh, we could put together representative staff. However, we also do an online forum for staff. And we'll probably do that. We usually do those in the evening, so we get really good attendance at those, and not interfering with anybody's work during the day. So I think item 3.3, it says online town hall forum. Those are well attended by staff, and it gives each of them. Those generally last longer than the focus groups because, you know, we'll have anywhere from 20 to 100 people attend those, and the chat's wide open. So we hear lots of information, but that's how we would engage the staff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchett. Dr. Pugh, and then Mr. McMillan.
I don't know that we mentioned librarians or someone from that community.
It wasn't mentioned.
Thank you. Dr. Pugh, Mr. McMillan.
I would just add, I think MAPSA would be good. It'd be good, I think they'd be interested in a superintendent who is interested in helping kids get out of failing schools and have alternatives, so, and wouldn't be hostile to them, so that's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Other board members? Once, twice, thrice. To that list, ed support staff are an important part of our educational communities and ecosystem. Business needs to be represented in some fashion or another, along with ed labor, along with ed management, along with teacher and student voice. Optimize is an education group in the state, which has done quite extraordinary work in collaboration with the department on special education. Optimize has presented here, so that might be another possibility. HYA board has a very narrow window. Dr. McGee talked about that very narrow window within which to conduct these interactions, these interviews, these focus groups, these forums. It's also a down period of time for many. So it's a short period of time and it's a down period of time. So we're going to encourage flexibility in you, in them, in staff setting these up, recognizing that everybody is not going to get their oar in the water in this way, but as Dr. Pritchett pointed out, everybody's going to have the opportunity relative to the survey. And with that, Dr. Ritchie, I think I'm going to turn it over to you and Dr. Collins.
Yeah, so next on the agenda is the online survey. So the survey, as Max indicated in the calendar, we're looking at from June 23rd to July 3rd to get that survey out. It's a survey link, and it is open to anyone. And so if we can't fit in a focus group, if we unintentionally leave out a focus group, everyone has access to the survey. And in the survey, it's actually more in-depth than what the focus group will be with questions. And they can write a short response or a long response to some of those questions that we probe. We talk about, you know, the givens are what are the challenges, what characteristics are you looking for in the next state superintendent, what's going well in the state and in the Department of Ed office. But then we ask other questions as well. And as we put this together, we also ask a question to give other individuals an opportunity to say, is there someone else that we should contact or recruit or go after? So even if you're not a board member, you're not a state employee, you might be a sitting superintendent taking the survey, and they might give us a name or two to follow up with. And so we will definitely follow up with other names that we get from the survey as well. But the survey is a tool that we use to help develop the profile report. So we're going to take the focus group notes looking for common themes. We're going to take the survey responses looking for those common themes, and then we're going to put together that report based off of the interviews, focus groups, and the survey. So Max, did I miss anything with the survey?
I would just say.
Well, you did a good job. I will add that we do disaggregate data by larger groups. And just to reassure the members, we do have collect IP addresses, and we do have ways of determining if any person or groups actually are trying to game the system and overload it. We generally that does not happen, but every once in a while we catch someone who's decided that everybody's going to have the similar answer. So I just want to assure you that we do have our means, maybe not as sophisticated as SAT or ACT testing, but sophisticated nonetheless to be sure that the data that we receive are reliable, given that this is a survey of convenience and not a stratified random sampling.
I would also add that please let people know that even if they are in a group that's meeting on a particular date and they are not available and can't be a part of that focus group, the online survey is another way that they can still participate. So we really want to take away any excuses or reasons why people are not able to contribute to the information that we receive. So the survey is always available to everyone, whether you're present on the day of your focus group or not.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Pritchett, in her low-key, inimitable way, mentioned the alphabet soup of education organizations, and those include but aren't limited to MASB, the Michigan Association of School Boards, as well. So I don't want anybody to think that they were excluded. They certainly aren't. They include MEA and AFT Michigan. They include the 3 superintendents associations, the 2 principals associations. They include MAPSA as well. They include the school business officials and. So I think the board is trying to paint a picture of inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness. Right. Yes.
Good point.
Ms. Lipton, to you.
just a procedural question about the online survey. Um, Most online surveys require someone to log in and then sort of type in their answers, what have you. But I've seen some really interesting iterations of online surveys that allow people who are perhaps better at expressing themselves orally rather than in writing, where they can sort of tape record the their answers and then capture that and then send that in. I'm just curious if you contemplate an online survey that would allow people with different sort of communication skills to be able to respond to the survey.
I'm sad to say we do not have that capacity. As Mike said, the survey is a combination of multiple choice and open-ended questions. We can provide it. We do provide it in Spanish and English. But as far as that, we don't provide paper surveys, and we don't have that recording capacity.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Dr. Collins, you were going to say something, I
Well, I
believe?
was just going to move on to the next topic unless there was anything else.
Let's canvass board members to see if there's anything more to share on survey before we pivot. Going once, twice, thrice, Dr. Pugh, and then to Dr. Collins.
I just want to put it out here in the atmosphere that we will be giving you other groups or names as time goes, because we've thrown out groups. Dr. Rice kind of alluded to this. We want to make sure that it's known that, like, Board Member Snyder and others of us are going to get either names of groups that will be part of focus groups, or maybe groups of individuals or individuals that will be a part of the survey. So we will have opportunity and time to do that.
And we welcome that.
Yes, and that's a good point.
Not an exhaustive list.
Right, that's a good point too, because let's just say we have 70 groups when we're done. We can certainly email that survey link to those groups and encourage those groups to participate throughout the survey process as well.
And there may be opportunities to combine some
Right.
groups and meet with them together as a focus group.
Good point.
Because one of the
Please.
groups that I do want to throw out there that I had forgotten about is LEAD. I think it's LLEAD, and that is our Hispanic Latino group. But we'll give you more.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh, for that benediction, and for the post-benediction, Dr. Robinson. And then we'll pivot to Dr. Collins in the next agenda item.
How is the survey being distributed?
So what we do is we're going to rely on some of your office for help to get the link out. We're going to ask you to give us the information from like these groups, for example, a contact person or their website. We'll get the survey to them as well. We're going to use social media. We're going to do other means, our website, the state website, and you just use that social media as much as possible. It's when we do a typical superintendent search, it's easy for us to email all the parents, email all the staff, because we have access to that. But we will have a lot of access to every every school district superintendent, for example. We would have access to their email. We would have access to other emails that will help hone the process in. But some of these groups that we come up with, we're going to need a little bit of assistance to get the contact information and email and their websites to be able to get them the survey link.
Okay, the next item has to do with content of the application. So everyone who submits, and this is a part of the recruit phase. So as we said, we utilize all of our associates across the nation to assist us in identifying people who may be the right match for this position. We request that they provide a resume and a letter of interest when they are putting their application packet together. And we also ask that they list 3 to 5 references that we could contact. And this is all in the initial phase. Once the board has interviewed candidates, et cetera, and we're going deeper, then we get more references and go deeper into that background check. But basically, those are the things that we ask of every candidate. Is there any discussion regarding that or anything else that you would like to see?
Dr. Pritchett.
So that would be what would be included in the portal then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will.
Those
In the portal.
documents.
You will have that, in the portal, you will have information on every applicant who applies for the position, and then we will take a look at all of the applications and see which ones most closely resemble the leadership profile report that's created from what we've heard on the survey, as well as from the meetings that have been held and from the board. And then we look at tier 1, 2, and 3.
So in the portal, we make it very simple for you. Once these candidates apply, and once we verify we have all of the information that was requested, we will create one document per candidate and put it into the portal. So you're going to have one click. If it's 20 pages, it's all going to be consecutive. You're not going to have 20 different files for each candidate. You're going to have one click, one file per candidate. So it'll be very easy for you to be able to go through them. I don't want to say quickly, but to organize them and to look at what they've submitted without doing 50 different clicks.
And each board member will have a password for the portal so that you can access that information and get in and look at it at any time. So even any minutes that have been formed from meetings that have taken place, et cetera, all of that will be in the portal.
So when we ask for their information, we ask them to submit it in one continuous document, and you would be surprised what we get. So if they don't follow the instructions, it goes right back to them. And they have to follow the posting instructions. So it makes life much easier for this board.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything more?
That is it on that piece. We talked about the board portal, number of slated candidates.
Confidentiality.
Yes, confidentiality. We know what the rules are in the state of Michigan as far as transparency and confidentiality, and so have had conversations regarding that with other searches that we have done within the state, and so we will be following the guidelines set by the state of Michigan for searches of this nature, and what needs to be confidential or what can be confidential and what needs to be public and transparent.
And again, this board is well aware you can't do a lot in closed session
Right.
in Michigan. So when it comes to the interview process, so we will definitely make sure we are following all the open meeting laws as well. As far as the advertising recruiting, Max did allude to some of it already. We talked about the number of associates that we have that will help us recruit. The HYA website is basically a national recruiting agency. If you look on the HYA website, you'll see a robust postings for positions, very, very large districts to very small districts to other state association postings as well. We'll do a national advertising package for you. We'll use social media, but 75% of the individuals we place are recruited. If they're not recruited by us, they're recruited by you or other means through the surveys, the focus groups. But the majority of the people that we end up placing, that you end up hiring, will be someone that will be recruited by someone either from this group or our agency. So any questions, or Max, did I miss anything on the advertising, or Connie?
No.
No, good job. And I'm eager for them to see what your wife produces after these initial conversations. She really does. I don't want to oversell it, but you can't oversell it because it's such high quality. So we're excited about sharing these materials with you after we interview with you and prepare them.
Slated candidates.
Yep. So for the slated candidates, again, we talked about 5, 6. Sometimes the board will choose more or less based on the quality of applicants. Again, this is your search, and you have every right to interview anyone that you see fit, the names that you see in that portal. And we can't pick a number today because you don't know who's going to apply for this job. You don't know the quality of the people that are going to apply. So once we present that slate, at that board meeting, that's the time when this board will decide, yes, there's 5, no, there's 4, maybe there's 7. But until you see the actual slate and the applicants, you can't determine that number. The one question that they might ask too, and we can work on this is in the posting, as we create the posting, we do like to list the salary range as well. So we may want to have a discussion about, is it a state appointed salary range, or is it up to this board? So at some point, we'll have to have that discussion about of the salary range.
And keep in mind also, when it's time to interview and you identify how many candidates you want to interview, there's a time commitment associated with that. And so you want to know, how much time are you willing to devote to the process? Is everybody going to be present to be a part of the process so that, there is input and you get to know the candidates before selecting someone or moving them to the next level?
And as we go through that first round interviews, that's followed up by a second round of interviews or the final interviews, we're getting way ahead of the search process because that's down the road. And again, when we present the slate, when we have our next meeting, we'll talk more about the process for that first round interview, what goes into it, the second round interview, what goes into that. This is a different search than a school district search. So once you get to the final interviews for a school district, they may spend the entire day in the district, tour some schools, meet with students, meet with staff, meet with parents. This one's going to be a little bit different, but we'll still, for the final candidates, we'll still do some type of final walkthrough or visit. They're going to want to see this office. They're going to want to see the staff here. They're going to want to see the different departments within this office. They're going to want to, maybe the Capitol. They're going to want a good vision of what they are walking into. So we will set up some kind of a day in the district for those finalists, the 2 or 3 or 4 finalists, however many you identify. Anything else on that?
And I would just add that this is a board decision. This is not HYA's decision. Same thing, we work with school districts. We have to remind the board and the community that the board makes the decision as to who the superintendent will be, that HYA does not identify or select the superintendent. We bring you candidates and you decide who that superintendent is going to be.
Senator Bullock.
Like, just to, just like Member Snyder said, like we need a couple days. Maybe I'm on my way home and I go, oh, I didn't think of such and such and such and such. We use the generic email, or is there an email or a contact for you guys that we use directly to send that stuff? So, or will we get that before you leave?
We can give
The yeah, you have we put in the proposal, so I think Ms. Evans, maybe you could provide that to each of the board members. We have our emails, and we also have our cell phone numbers. And for those of you who checked references, I'm sure you heard that the responsiveness is unparalleled. So we pride ourselves on getting back with you in very short order, no matter which one of us you decide to text, call, or email. So, and we be sure that, so before you leave today, if we could be sure that you have that, that'd be great. Yeah, and you can that's a great example on the way home. I just thought of this. So don't text us while you're driving.
That's called distracted driving.
Yeah, use a hands-free and call one of us, and we'll add it to the list.
Yeah, and we would all prefer if you used our emails, not the main office email, because if you use the main email, it will go to the main office, and then they'll get it to us. But we would rather have it directly from you. And like Max said, our cell phones are listed. Don't ever hesitate to call us at any time. And it does not have to be from 8 to 5. We're all up very, very early in the morning, and we all work weekends and evenings. So you got busy schedules. Some of you, have other jobs as well. So if it's in the evening, if it's in the weekend, that is okay. So
Thank you very much. Ms. Snyder, as we bring this portion of the board meeting to the conclusion.
Marshall beat me to it. I just wanted to know what email we were sending these to.
Okay, very good. HYA presenters, Dr. McGee, Dr. Ritchie, Dr. Collins, we appreciate you. We're looking forward to working with you as we work on trading up. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Safe home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you
rest
all.
of your meeting.
Thank you.
Board, the next item on today's agenda is a presentation on literacy updates, Public Act 146 and Public Act 147 of 2024, and literacy grants from Section 35M as in Mary, 35N as in Nancy of the State School Aid Act. This presentation will provide literacy updates aligned to Goal 2 of Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan to improve early literacy achievement. We welcome our presenters, Dr. Susie Carnell, Chief Deputy Superintendent, Michigan Department of Education, Dr. Delsa D. Chapman, Deputy Superintendent in the Division of Assessment, School Improvement, and Systems Support, Dr. Renee Garcia, Director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Corinne Edwards, Director of the Office of Educational Support, Ms. Denisha Rawls-Smith, Manager of the Literacy Unit in the Office of Educational Supports, and Dr. Jen Saylor, Assistant Director of the Office of Educational Supports. Additionally, we welcome Ms. Sandy Youngert, a member of the MDE Literacy Team. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. Presenters, welcome.
Thanks, Dr. Rice, and good morning, Board. We are here today to provide updates on recent literacy efforts. Dr. Edwards will lay the foundation by sharing an overview of the presentation elements. Dr. Edwards, to you.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Good morning. The Michigan Top 10 Strategic Education Plan outlines 8 goals that, when implemented successfully, will support learning and impact life outcomes for learners across our great state. Goal number 2, improve early literacy achievement, is a key goal in helping us realize our vision for all Michigan learners, that they will have an inspiring, engaging learning environment that fosters creative and critical thinkers who believe in and can live into the fullest of their potential. Over the past year, the staff in the Office of Educational Support's Literacy Unit has intentionally focused its efforts on Goal 2 by providing technical assistance and professional growth opportunities for Michigan educators, both teachers and leaders, to increase, enhance, and support their readiness and ability to develop and maintain academic learning spaces and activities that focus on addressing the comprehensive literacy learning needs of our youngest students. Our goal today is to provide the board with an update of our current statewide efforts to support and move forward Michigan's Strategic Education Plan Goal 2 with an intentional focus on advancing the identification and utilization of high-quality literacy instructional materials and researched teacher practices rooted in the science of reading. During today's presentation, we will share updates on the work of the Committee for Literacy Achievement, including the Section 35M rankings list, the Section 35M and Section 35N grant applications. We'll also share an update on MDE's efforts toward implementing Public Act 146 of 2024, one of the K-12 literacy and dyslexia laws, as well as provide an overview of the timeline for Public Act 146 of 2024 and Section 35M. We will conclude the presentation by focusing the board's attention toward MDE's student-centered legislative priorities for the coming year. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Jennifer Saylor to take us further into the presentation today.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Good morning, everybody. This past May, the Committee for Literacy Achievement completed the evaluation process for literacy series and materials, tools and services, and professional development. As a result of their work, the MDE published the following rankings list: Tier 1 literacy curricula, Tier 1 literacy interventions, and professional development. To ensure consistency and transparency for the evaluation process, CLA members participated in inter-rater reliability and rubric training, and each submission was subsequently evaluated by 3 members of the committee who came to consensus for a final score. To determine the criteria for the request for submission process and evaluate the materials and resources submitted, the CLA developed evidence-based rubrics based on the Every Student Succeed Act, or ESSA, tiers of evidence, the Reading League Curriculum Evaluation Guidelines, Ed Reports 2.0, the National Center of Intensive Intervention, or NCII, Academic Intervention Rating Rubric, and the Colorado Department of Education READ Act Professional Development Review Process. These RFS documents can be found on the Section 35M High Quality Instructional Materials Grant website. As a result of the evaluation process and CLA recommendations, the rankings list of funded materials for Section 35M were published on the 35M website and are included in the Nexus application. Each item on the list includes a consensus scoring document developed by CLA members, which provides scores for each criterion to support LEAs in making informed decisions about the materials they select. As we have shared in previous presentations, the 35M evaluation process was rigorous. This required ongoing commitment of CLA members. We would like to acknowledge the dedication and support of the committee in this process and thank them for sharing their expertise and experience with the department and students and educators across our state. As we've mentioned in the past, the Section 35M grant serves as an on-ramp or an entry point to PA 146, which Mrs. Rawls-Smith will talk more about shortly. As a result, funded submissions for 35M will be included in the Tier 1 curricula and materials list to be published by January 1st of 2026. Not funded materials will be eligible to resubmit for consideration for the PA 146 list. The Section 35M grant application is available in Nexus for districts and local education agencies to apply for a portion of the $87 million. 3 rankings list: Tier 1 Early Literacy Materials and Series, Early Literacy Intervention Materials and Series, and Professional Development. Districts may apply for funding for 1 literacy item of the rankings list, and lists are also published on the 35M website. The application will be open until July 11th of 2025. And finally, in addition to the rankings list and criteria previously mentioned, additional resources and information, including an informational webinar and frequently asked questions document, can be found on the 35M website as well. And now I'll welcome Dr. Garcia to share more about the 35N grant.
Thank you, Dr. Saylor, and good morning. Section 35N grant, also known as the Reading Excellence in Advancing District Innovation Grant, is a competitive grant with $10 million of funding. The grant provides startup money to eligible districts to develop and implement innovative literacy initiatives that make a positive impact on student literacy rates, and incentive money to districts determined to have demonstrated the greatest impact. The application window for this grant opened June 2nd and remains open until July 11. This grant is available within the Nexus platform. A literacy committee established the structures of the competition, determined eligibility criteria, and identified a process for selecting finalists through multiple rounds of funding. Funds allocated under this section are intended to foster district-led innovations in literacy instruction grounded in the science of reading, provide the state with insights into successful practices that could be scaled statewide, and improve student outcomes in literacy. This application is currently open and will remain so until July 11. Those seeking additional information and resources can find them on the Section 35N Reading Excellence and Advancing District Innovation Grant webpage. Resources include a pre-recorded webinar, frequently asked questions document, and additional resources to support completing the application. And now I'll pass it along to my wonderful colleague, Mrs. Denisha Rawls-Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Good morning, Dr. Rice. Good morning, board members. During this portion of the presentation, I will provide an update on Public Act 146 of 2024 and our progress towards its full implementation. I will also provide an overview of our timeline for PA 146. I will not touch on 35M as much because Dr. Saylor has already given you quite a few of those dates. The Literacy Unit, in partnership with the MyMTSS TA Center, is continuing to offer statewide technical assistance and professional development opportunities. These include the Dyslexia Summit, Diversity in Literature webinar series, and the in-person Literacy for All presentations on the MDE Dyslexia Handbook. Additionally, the Committee for Literacy Achievement and other experts are coming together to support the work of PA 146. They will serve as an assessment review team and a curriculum materials review team. The additional members will provide an English learner and state assessment perspective to this work. The image you see on the slide is a timeline of important dates and responsibilities for Public Act 146 and Section 35M. The purpose of this timeline is to provide a sense of where we have been and where we are going. Please direct your attention to the key in the bottom right-hand corner of the document above the Michigan Department of Education logo. Represented in this key are color codes for MDE and local education agencies' responsibilities. MDE responsibilities are represented with the bluish gray, and LEA responsibilities are represented with yellow. Within our key, you will also notice bold font is used to represent dates and responsibilities required by the law, and regular font is used to represent MDE self-imposed dates and responsibilities. Reading from left to right, beginning with school year 2024-2025, let's focus our attention to the top of our image where the important dates for PA 146 are written. In PA 146, the law requires that MDE provide technical assistance and professional development by September 1st, 2025. This requirement is currently being implemented and has been ongoing since October of 2024. The next important date is July 2025. According to Section 12 of PA 146, the Michigan Department of Education shall notify the parent or legal guardian of a student completing grade 3 who scored not proficient in reading based on the state English Language Arts assessment. And this will occur each year by July 31st. Next, you will notice January 1st, 2026, we have two sets of responsibility. One is self-imposed by MDE, and that is to provide professional learning guidance. The other is to provide the Tier 1 curriculum and materials list and an approved, valid, and reliable assessment list. The next items on the timeline include the department, 1, providing technical assistance on selection of assessments by September 1st, 2026, and 2, developing a literacy coach model. The law does not specify a date for this. However, MDE has proposed a date of December 2026. Beginning the 2027-2028 school year, local education agencies must do all of the following, and this is pictured in the yellow box. They must select an assessment from the approved, valid, and reliable screening and progress monitoring assessments list, implement evidence-based instructional methods, provide professional development assurance, and align their literacy efforts with English learner proficiency. Beginning the 2027-2028 school year, MDE will provide technical assistance in individual reading improvement planning. And that concludes my portion of our presentation, and I am turning it over to Dr. Carnell for MDE legislative priorities.
Thank you very much. My section is the MDE legislative priorities. Good morning, board. Had to look at the clock. Good morning, board. We know there are certain strategies that can help children succeed in reading. I'm going to list at least 4 of them. 1, having more teacher time with the students to help individualize instruction. 2, having a teacher knowledgeable about how the brain works in learning to read. 3, having high quality instructional materials in the classroom. And 4, having more in-person time in the classroom to obtain instruction. The next few slides will provide more details on each of the 4 strategies and explain why we recommend that the legislature provide funding for these strategies or implement existing or make amendments to existing laws. Teachers who teach in grades K through 3 in high poverty schools need a smaller classroom to have more time with students and to help students individualize instruction. Research shows a positive association between smaller class size and improved outcomes. When teachers are knowledgeable about how the brain works in learning to read, improved academics outcomes occur. Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, otherwise known as LETTERS, is a professional learning course that provides educators with in-depth knowledge and tools that they can use with any reading program. Over the past several years, 4,560 educators have completed LETTERS training, and an additional 7,000 teachers are actively involved in LETTERS training. To recap some of the information on LETTERS that you've heard in past presentations, LETTERS is grounded in the science of reading research. LETTERS provides professional development in 5 main components: phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary. Students can benefit from using high-quality instructional materials. Studies have shown that high-quality instructional materials can produce annual gains of 10 to 20 or more percentile points in learning. And finally, we believe that students can benefit from more time in school. We asked the legislature to roll back changes made in 2019 and 2023 that reduced the number of in-person instructional days in school. Currently, the law requires 120 days of in-person instruction. Days are eaten away in the following manner: 9 days for events beyond a school's or district's control, 7 professional development days without students, and 15 days can be used to provide instruction virtually. That could result in 140 days of students receiving in-person instruction. So when you take 180 minus 149, it equals 31 days, which overall equates to a student experiencing 1.5 months less time of in-person instruction. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Carnell. Presenters, we appreciate your presentation. And board members, questions or comments? Questions or comments? Ms. Lipton, thank you very much for getting us going.
Thank you, all of you, for the presentation. Really helpful and good information. I just have a few questions. I really appreciate the portion of the presentation where the department, where you've outlined the assistance to school districts applying for the grants in the form of the webinars and what have you, because a lot of school districts don't have the capacity to have someone full-time, sort of operating as a grant writer. And grant writing it's important. And so I appreciate the uplifting of the assistance in the form of the webinars and what have you. Are there any other forms of assistance that the department would offer to school districts that are embarking on grant writing process in terms of perhaps like a point person that a school district or an LEA might call to make sure that they're sort of moving in the right direction and what have you? I'm just curious if there are those types of assistance offered to LEAs as well.
Yes, we have our MDE Early Literacy mailbox, as well as all of the literacy unit team members, our email addresses. We receive emails and we write back. We also have spoken with districts over the phone. The Nexus application is very simple. They select the item they want and they're pretty much done. Click a few assurances and the application process is pretty simple for 35M. For Section 35N, if they run into questions, they're welcome again to use that email box or contact any of us. Our grant analyst is Kelly Flaminio, and she's pretty famous in Michigan. So a lot of people know how to get in contact with her, but we all field the questions and write back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have.
Please, Ms. Lipton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification. At one point in the presentation, you mentioned that students who are sort of deemed to be not proficient, I think that was sort of the term that I heard, were sort of flagged. I just want to make sure that I understand, because it took me some time to sort of understand that the term proficiency has different meanings based on different tests and what have you. So as you were using not proficient, I assume that that is an indication of some specific pedagogical term of art. Could you just for my own edification, just clarify what we're all talking about so we're all on the same page?
So I'll speak to it from the reference of PA 146 specifically. The term not proficient is very specific to the MSTEP, and it is an indication or a score. To your point, it's an indicator or score on that test. Students in Michigan that score not proficient, the law requires that MDE send their parent a letter, and the letter informs them that their child scored not proficient, that they should be offered intervention, that their school district is by law required to provide that intervention. And so our communication is simply a certified letter to make them aware of that. So that is the way I spoke about it in this presentation, but there are other contexts for not proficient and what it actually measures depending on the test that you take, yes.
Okay, thank you. So tied to MSTEP and based on that system,
yes,
if you will. Okay, wonderful. And then just my final question. I appreciate the various presentations and discussions we've had around letters training and the importance of that. And just by my back of the napkin, looks like about 7,000 plus 4,000, so roughly 11,000 educators either having taken or in the process of taking. And I know it's based on prior presentations, it's an involved commitment. Number one, two-part question. What percentage of, well, do we have an understanding of, or does the department have an understanding of why teachers are not taking letters? And I assume that perhaps there are some teachers who don't need to take letters. I mean, I imagine that the target audience, there's a certain classification of teachers that the department is sort of targeting with letters. But do we have an understanding of why, of that percentage, why more aren't taking it? Is it the time factor, the cost, I don't know. I'm just.
Let me take a stab at the
curious
question.
to
4,500 teachers have, 4,500 educators have finished a very, very involved professional development activity that can take 18 to 24 months. That's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
Another 7,000 are engaged. It's all voluntary. There's no requirement at the state level to take letters training. It's pretty extraordinary movement of people into this professional development in the absence of a mandate. But the reality is that in the absence of a mandate, there are people that are going to say, for one reason or another, either because of time or because of their sense of their preparation up to that point, that they're not going to do it. We believe that all elementary educators need this important professional development experience. So the numbers are really quite extraordinary.
This is what they teach.
If you are a classroom teacher at the elementary level, if you are teaching literacy in any form or fashion at the elementary school level, we believe that you should have letters professional development. And oh, by the way, letters professional development was mandated in the state of Mississippi. So when we look at other states for lessons, here's a lesson from another state. And people talk a lot about wanting to be informed by other states, but then they get squeamish when it bumps into a local control. You can't have it both ways. You either want to learn lessons from other states, which are not about local control, but which are about higher literacy, or you don't. And we need to mandate this professional development, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Lipton, back to you.
And then just just lastly, thank you for that. Does the department, have there been, just out of curiosity, any formal surveys or discussions about why teachers, I mean, do we know specifically from those teachers that didn't partake of it, what have you, what might cause them, or do we feel relatively comfortable that we've done as much as we can to, I mean, as Dr. Rice said, sometimes you do need to just say you have to do this.
No, the team can go from there. We do know, you're right, Ms. Lipton, that there are some teachers who do not participate because of the time commitment. There are some teachers who do not participate because of the cost, although the legislature has provided some funding for teachers to partake in that. It's a huge time commitment. There are some districts who have not bought into the science of reading. We still have people who believe in the reading wars.
Okay.
And so we're trying to combat that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Snyder, to you.
There's so many layers here. Give me just a second. lots of agreement here that I would just like to unpack a little bit and hopefully encourage to some degree, not through disagreement, but through just the nuance of it. I'm not in disagreement with the concept of what Mississippi has done or looking to other states that do that in the effort to improve literacy in Michigan, especially. Maybe we need to change the verbiage and the concept of what mandatory means versus required training. That, you know, the board members that sit at this table have certifications that they are required to provide a certain number of hours, whether you're a CPA or a nurse or a teacher. Like, we all have requirements in relationship to our profession. I just completed my 25 CEUs literally 2 days ago. To renew my nursing license, I had to get pain management requirements, taken care of, human trafficking requirements taken care of, implicit bias training required. Whether I agree with any one of those three things, like you're saying about reading wars versus, you get to a point where you just say, this is what I do. I can come to the table with disagreement. This is also a requirement of me, and to do what our Teacher of the Year said in terms of diving in and providing and caring for and teaching of and the things that we do, we dive in and we figure it out anyways. And we come to the table and we work through the disagreements as they present. When it comes to letters training, we're talking about reducing class sizes in K through 3. The only portion that I will say that I want to put on the table is if we reduce class sizes in K3, it's across the board. It's for every child in the state of Michigan.
I'm sorry, say that one more. I missed the back
We
half of the sentence.
reduce class sizes for K
Yes.
through 3 in the name of improving literacy. It's for every child in every classroom across the state of Michigan. And that informs other conversations within literacy, which we don't have to go there right now. But I'm supportive of that. I've said I was supportive of that last month. I'll continue to be supportive of that. But that bleeds over into the concept of mandatory letters training or required training for certified teachers. If we're looking at the number of teachers that need to be, mandatorily trained in letters, should we be going after K through 3, K through 5 first? When we suggest that that would be a requirement. How many K through 5 teachers are there in the state of Michigan? What would it take to require that and accomplish that? When nurses were required to take 2 CEU units of pain training, it was within the next 2 years, right? There was, in fact, not only the requirement, but then a time frame within when that had to happen. And it was baked into their 25 CEUs. It wasn't above and beyond the professional development days that we're talking about, right? So that bleeding over into the next thing that I am actually very supportive of when we talk about more in-person instructional time. So if there's a number of professional days and we're looking at mandatory letters training, I would suggest, based on how Laura already does this within other professions, that if we're going to say this is required and we want to improve literacy in the state of Michigan as quickly as possible within the next decade, then it would apply to those really at-risk grade levels, right? So K through 3, first and foremost, within this time frame, and this is the requirement, period. We're no longer debating over whether or not literacy needs to improve. And in fact, we're going to aggressively go after it. So that's all I would suggest, is that for every child in every classroom across the state is who we're going to bat for. And we're going to bat in a very strategic fashion. And it's a requirement.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Snyder. Other board members, Ms. Tilley.
Of course, I'm very happy that we're having this conversation, because if we are going to move Michigan forward, there are things that are going to have to be required. Financial literacy was required, and it needed to be required because it wasn't happening. Whether it's comprehensive history or ethnic studies, it's going to have to be required in order for us to move forward and make change. And Senator Chang was really hoping that ethnic studies would pass this morning. I am definitely for making this a requirement Dr. Pugh and I we attended the Mackinac Policy Conference recently, and there were a lot of talks about education. I really appreciated the passion from the conversations. Some of the conversation, it was on point. Some of the conversation, it was tone deaf. And a big concern and overall theme, of course, is literacy. And letters training, I believe, from what I know and what I've researched and what you all have shared, could be very beneficial for Michigan so that we can move the needle forward, although it would take some time. And with the amount of educators that are actually taking the training, it would take even more time. As I've stated before at this table, with the training being 2 years and an educator taking 3 years to master a new curriculum, that's 5 years. And at the pace that they're taking it, where are we at? 20 years, maybe. So I would definitely be for mandating it. And then also, I want to know, how are you informing, educating, reaching out to educators to try to get them on board? How aggressive are you? Is MDE with that? And then also educating and informing stakeholders, because the policy conference had a lot of stakeholders there, and letters training was not mentioned. So I don't know if they know about that and how long it would take for the changes to actually, for us to see changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Other board members? Other board members, before I bring it home for the session.
Well, I guess I would just like to ask, are you looking for the board's approval on these priorities, or is MDE going to pursue these priorities with or without our approval?
MDE has been pursuing these
Will
priorities.
they continue, or?
They will.
Okay, so you're not looking for any type of approval from this body?
No.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. So let's look at these four additional efforts beyond the efforts of our literacy team. The efforts of our literacy team are quite extraordinary. And the Section 35M funding, to which our literacy team referred, already has 45 applications in 8 days. There have been more than 200 school districts that have opened up the application. We are going to have an enormous number of applicants for these Section 35M dollars, which the legislature has appropriated for high-quality instructional materials in the state. We ask that the legislature continue what it's already done. Like the old Palmolive dishwashing liquid, they're already soaking in this. They've already agreed that this is important, Lisa Hands Connect. We're asking them to double down on what they've already decided is important funding. Take the Section 35M funding from fiscal year 25 and add to it. And help us implement PA 146 of 2024 a year early, because tick-tock goes the clock. And kids are coming into and going out of their reading windows. And it's not to say you can't teach a young person to read outside of his or her reading window. You most assuredly can, but it's harder. And so it's ideal to get it done in the reading window, to incentivize those instructional materials, those high-quality instructional materials now. Legislature has already said this is important. Legislature has already put money into this. We're asking the legislature to continue to put money into it, to facilitate literacy/dyslexia laws that we fought for a number of years to get passed. That's the first thing. The second thing is letters training. Legislature has already been funding letters training, has funded letters training for 4 years, for 4 fiscal years. $34 million over 4 fiscal years. The last 3 2/3 years, we've had letters training funding, and it's supported the almost 12,000 people that have been a part of letters training. We asked the legislature to take it a step further. You've already acknowledged the importance of letters training. This is a goose gander issue. Make it mandatory. Make it mandatory for all of our teachers teaching literacy K-5. And respectfully, if you are teaching math, science, social studies, reading or writing in elementary school, you are teaching literacy. And I might add, many of our music and art teachers and physical education teachers are teaching literacy as well. You can't have it both ways. If you're teaching literacy in art, music, and PE, as well you should in your interdisciplinary approach to instruction, then you ought to have the training additionally to help take kids to where they need to be. So we asked the legislature to double down on what it's already doing with respect to letters training. It's already been funding the letters training, make it mandatory. Low class sizes in high poverty K-3 classrooms. Class sizes, one could argue, are too high across the state and across levels across the state. But where class sizes are most important, not my opinion, but a function of research, is in K-3 high poverty classrooms. Our young people should have class sizes that permit their teachers to get them off to the very best early literacy and early numeracy starts imaginable. We used to have a class size reduction grant for high poverty K-3s in the state of Michigan. I know my district had it. My district benefited from it. So too did yours, Dr. Chapman. So too did yours, Dr. Edwards. I'm just saying, okay? So too did yours, Dr. Garcia. So this is not a newfangled idea. It's not newfangled in the state of Michigan, although the grant was too small back in the day. And it's not newfangled in the research. The research is quite clear. The impact of low class sizes is most substantial in high poverty K-3s. And that's why we are asking the legislature to recreate that high poverty K-3 class size reduction grant in the state of Michigan. Research-based class size reduction grant, research-based letters training, research-based high-quality instructional materials. Very much consonant with what you've seen in other states that have said that unfettered local control does not drive the literacy rates that we need. And then finally, to Dr. Carnell's exhortation about time. We don't ask the legislature to create an enormous amount more time for children. We ask the legislature to roll back the amount of time children were required to have pre-2019. In 2019, the legislature, as Dr. Carnell pointed out, permitted 7 professional development days without children anywhere near the building to be counted as student instructional days. Somewhere George Orwell is rolling around in his grave at the notion of student instructional days without students. Professional development is tremendously important. We ought to have it, we ought to fund it, but it ought not to come out of student instructional time. In 2023, the state legislature permitted 15 virtual days to count as in-person instructional time toward the 180, notwithstanding the fact that we knew coming out of a pandemic that in-person was superior to virtual. Legislature made 2 mistakes with respect to time in the last 6 years. The legislature needs to reverse those 2 mistakes. 4 research-based ideas. We ask for the support of the legislature to help us help our babies read more and better. Presenters, we appreciate you. You're doing terrific work. I know you're not asking to.
No, the
okay.
questions that I asked
Yes.
at the end of when I spoke were not answered. They weren't rhetorical.
Okay, very good. Would you like to repeat them?
I can answer your question. I was going to send a board brief, but I can answer your questions. So we work with Lexia to help with marketing the cohorts. We use our website, and we have a website specific to letters. We also leverage the communication platforms through MDE that go directly to superintendents, as well as those that sign up for literacy updates. We send a newsletter monthly. And in addition to that, we have just email blasts that we send out to the field. When we offer letters, each cohort has like a type of orientation meeting where you don't have to sign up, you come, you can attend, and now there are sketches aligned with that meeting. So by attending that meeting, you can get a continuing education unit. And so we're using a variety of ways to contact districts. This past summer, we had a tour for letters, and we spent time in districts, and Lexia came in, they brought their team. They were able to sign full districts up on the spot. So in addition to what we've traditionally known with 35A10, there has been some district signups as well. And with those district signups, you can customize the professional development, and that would speak to what Board Member Snyder spoke about in regard to the professional development days and not increasing, but leveraging the days you have. So we've tried to use different modes of offerings and still leverage the funds that Dr. Rice spoke about, that $34 million. So it would be no cost.
In addition, we know that the teachers don't make that decision by themselves, that they need the administrator support. So we have also presented at the Michigan Association for Administrators, for the Superintendent Association, and for the Intermediate Superintendents Association, so that we can show how what we do dovetails with what they do, so they can be more supportive of their staff doing this training.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr.
You're welcome.
Please.
Yeah, so can we get a list of the districts that are not, they're not participating in letters training?
So I would say this. We're happy to reflect about what information we have.
Is it 5 or 50 or 200?
I would say, our information is often on the individual person level.
Well, we're talking about districts that aren't doing it.
But
and we're trampling on, we're suggesting to trample on, local control in the name of it, but we don't have numbers, do we?
Okay, let's back up. We're not suggesting about trampling on local control. We're suggesting about helping children learn to read more and better.
Well, this would just be the first of many, though. Once you start opening the door, there'll be all kind of mandates. But at any rate, thankfully, this mindset was not around when whole language was, supposed to be the research-based, proven way of doing things. But at any rate, is there many vendors for letters? Or just one? Or one letters training? Who is that?
Lexia.
Lexia. What does that stand for? Or is that an acronym?
His name.
Okay, Lexia. Is it, so what if they don't do a good job? Should there be more than one? Like, do they always do a good job in their training?
Can I speak to that just briefly? So Lexia receives the funding from our grant in the state of Michigan. However, there are opportunities for facilitator training. So there are districts that have their own facilitators that can train.
So who owns Lexia?
Louisa Moats is the writer of letters.
I tell you what.
Does anybody have own stock in that company here?
I have no idea.
Okay.
If I could, we're happy to answer additional questions.
If there's
on-
better training than what Lexia provides, can the district do that? Or would they be mandated to only use Lexia as the only company that could provide
Let's
it?
back up.
Is it like sole source?
There is no mandate.
No,
That's
but you're
number one.
suggesting it.
What I'm saying is that the legislature has funded letters training for the last 4 fiscal years, 22, 3, 4, and 5.
All going to this one company?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
And notwithstanding that, districts have availed themselves of literally hundreds of different professional development efforts in literacy. None of those would have to stop. We're not suggesting any of those have to stop. We are suggesting that everybody have a particular foundation in their training. Board members, it is 12:13.
Company?
I
Can we
beg
get
your
like a
pardon?
plethora of companies doing this?
There is a plethora of companies.
There's
That's the
one
point.
that's chosen.
No. Actually, you're not listening. There are hundreds.
No, but the mandate would be letters by Lexia.
Neither the department nor the board
All right.
can mandate.
I get
It is our recommendation that the legislature mandate.
I get it.
Yes. Nonetheless, there are hundreds of professional developments that are possible in literacy. And the fact of the matter is that they will be possible even if the state legislature were to implement a letters mandate. It simply establishes a foundation. It doesn't affect at all a ceiling. Board, it's 12:14. We appreciate our presenters. We are going to have a lunch break, and we are going to reconvene at 1 o'clock for our afternoon session. Thank you.
Thank you.